Gospel.
Joining me today on Premier Gospel is Angie Rose. Thank you for freeing up your time. How are you?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm doing well. How about you?
Good, thank you. So also, I just want to congratulate you on the Dove Award. Is it like you made the ballot? Is that correct?
Yeah, we made the ballot.
Yeah, congratulations. And it's for Rap Album of the Year, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, wow. How did that kind of come together? Was it unexpected?
Super unexpected. My friend actually is the one that texted me. He's like, Angie! He votes for the Dove. And he's like, Angie, I just saw you. I'm like, oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah.
That's so
super
exciting.
Yeah.
So first up, I want all the details on your new single, the Unstoppable Global remix with Limoblaze and Wande. Can you just tell me more about the single, what it means to you, and also just how the collaboration came together?
Sure. So, Unstoppable has been an idea that I've been carrying around for years, like a little backpack. And I think over the years, God has just continued to kind of add some books in there. Another thing that I've been saying for a while is La Familia. And so, when I was thinking about people that kind of embody the idea of one global, which is Limoblaze and I believe Wande, but also La Familia, people that I think genuinely support the community, that love the community, that share and spend time with people. I just, I had to send the text and I was blown away when they both responded. I really thought it was going to be just one of them. I had no idea that it was going to end up, I was going to get both. But it worked out and yeah, it's just a blast. Like getting Wande's vocals in. I like what she did creatively towards the back end of the verse. I lost my mind. And Limo just has one of my favorite voices in the culture.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So obviously, like you said, the track Unstoppable has evolved. So I believe you first released it in 2015. Is that correct?
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So
creative.
how is it evolved and what does it mean to you just to be Unstoppable?
Well, sure. So I think so originally when I wrote that song, it was gonna be called like Legacy. And so I'm in the studio and I'm like, Legacy, whatever, like singing this thing. And he's like, well, can you say something else? And I'm like, oh, Unstoppable. So then I start writing these verses, I start thinking. And truth be told, I think a lot of the things that I was saying, I didn't fully grasp at the time. I was just kind of like, oh, this sounds amazing. But over time, I think God has kind of made me live out some of those verses. Just lines where I was like, feel like a young Moses in her prime. I'm like, what are you talking about, girl? Like, and then I ended up having to go to Puerto Rico after a hurricane, and we see like the world shift, and I get to do these things with these people, and God just moves. And I think God was just kind of, I think that first song was like this sketch to what I thought my life was going to be like. And then God started like, okay, this line you can erase, this like you can edit, this we're going to color, this color goes here. And I think that's how it's turned into more of what it sounds like now, which is a little bit pop, a little bit hip hop, but very, I think straight to the point and very much, like, I think specifically the remix, very straight to the point of like what God is calling me to do and who like God is using in this season. So.
I want to talk as well about your sound because obviously you have an amazing flow, but you can also sing. And I just want to know more about like how you got into music, who are your musical influences, and just how you discovered your sound and became more confident and established in your artistry, I suppose.
So I think that's still happening, if I'm honest. Singing is like a sore spot for me. And as of late, it's like everybody and their mom's kind of like screaming at me at this point. Like I get in the studio and they're like, no, you sing. And I'm like, oh, yay. So that's, if you pay attention, you kind of see like in the beginning, like it's like a whisper, like, oh my God, like I'm chilling, like sitting in the back. And then as of late, like I said, God has blessed me with the privilege of working with really amazing producers, like not just beat makers, like producers that can play instruments, and they just hear things that I don't, and like they're just like, Angie, stop, like sing this from your stomach. And I'm like, I don't want to. And I've cried in sessions, and just God is using it. So now I think I'm falling more in tune with my full sound. I think I'm realizing that I love hip hop for what it is, but what I love the most, what I want to sound like, is like world changing music. I want melodies. I love like keys and instruments, violins or horns. Like I just like the bigger the better. So I think that's what'll continue to unfold. I think it'll just keep leaning towards just bigger music, and then I'll rap for fun, or like, you know, hit that second verse or something like that. But yeah.
And then obviously the other thing, so obviously this is the Latin selection show. So can you talk to me about the power of Spanish music? Because when people sing in Spanish, it hits different.
So crazy.
And what influence and impact has it had on your life?
That thing raised me. Well, hip hop raised me too. I've loved like Jay-Z and all that, like just flows and cadences. I love the intelligence, I think, is what captivated me. Like it was like, man, like what they're saying, the metaphors. But you hit it on the head. It just like Latin music just hits different. Like there's just sways. It's almost like you could hear the waves and the palm trees in the music. Like it just takes you to that place. So when it comes to like salsa, like bachata, like all that, like there's just a swing to it that like is uncomparable. But then when it comes to like worship, I don't know what it is, but like you sing that first note and I'm like, oh, like immediately it just hits. Artists like Lilly Goodman, Christine Claudio, like people that just the minute they open their mouth to sing, you're just lost in a world. Yeah, I love my roots. I'm grateful.
Yeah. Who are some of your favorite Spanish artists?
Oof, it's a long list. Okay, so I love Mark Anthony. He's just phenomenal. I love Celia Cruz. Just the strength, the vibrance. Like Gloria Estefan's cool, even though that's like, you know, she did the crossover thing. She did her thing. I actually love Gente de Zona. Is this super? Yeah, right. Okay, they're like this. Yeah, they're cool.
Yeah.
When it comes to Christian music, I love Alex Campos. His voice raised me. Like when, you know, there's a couple artists that when I went through really, when I was younger, my niece and my nephew passed away, and they were both the children of pastors, and so it just like shook me up in a way that I was like, I don't get it. And there was just a couple of voices, Lilly Goodman being one, Christine Claudio being another, Alex Campos, Alex Zurdo is fun, Manny Montes, funky, but you know, Barak, like there's just certain artists that really helped heal these wounds and get me to see God again for who he is.
Wow, that's incredible. So I also wanted to discuss possible upcoming collaborations. I saw you with Lizzy Parra and also with Lilly Goodman. So even if you're not collaborating with them, what was it like connecting with them musically and just, you know,
amazing.
Other people who you're inspired by?
Yeah. So one, Lilly, I was like shaking, like I was so, and I was like, Angie, calm down. And then I don't like, my Spanish is my second language, so like that was tough. I was like, come on, girl. But it was just really good. I got to share with her. Cubreme like did a lot like for my relationship with God. Like seriously, like that song immediately is one of those like just bleh, like. But God just meets. So I got to share that with her, and that felt crazy to me. Like I'm like, oh my God, I'm speaking to the voice that has like led me to like communication with God. Like it was just amazing. And then Lizzy, that was super chill. She actually came by to my hotel and we just chatted. Like we were just, and I felt like I met like my Dominican sister. Like I'm like, what the heck? Like it was so chill, so comfortable, so vulnerable, so honest. We were both able to be like, man, this thing is hard. But also like, man, we love it. Both kind of realizing how God has used our careers to mold our characters.
Interesting.
And that was just hearing her, because I look up to her. Like I think she's just an amazing rapper. I think she's done so many things that like I want to do, and she's maintained her stance so firm. That's what I love. Like I feel like in my life, like I've kind of been struggling a little bit, and Lizzy's just been, and just meeting and hearing that she felt the things that I was feeling too, and that I was just like, okay, this is awesome. Yeah. So we've definitely got something. We've definitely got something cooking
Ooh,
that I'm excited about. Yeah.
I'm here for it. Not gonna lie. Um,
Not gonna lie. I love it.
so obviously you are getting more exposure and influence, and I mean, I even saw Paris Hilton commenting on your Instagram, writing a tweet
Yeah,
about you.
I
I was like,
tripped.
wow, okay, this is what we're doing. So how are you staying connected to God and also just managing expectations and assumptions attached to being a Christian today and just being in the mainstream world but being a Christian? That's something that I really wanted to discuss with you because I feel
These
like
are really good questions.
oh, listen, we're gonna go in scratching the
Well,
surface.
you're like in my head. So all those things are like the consistent struggle. Okay, so let's go down. What was the first one again?
So it was just about obviously you're getting more exposure and influence, and Paris Hilton. Just what is that like, first of all?
Okay, yeah.
Having that kind of God just put you
Managing.
on a more open platform, you know?
Yeah. So initially, and I haven't actually said this on any platforms yet. So um initially, I think that it was very confusing, very, very confusing, and it affected me mentally. It affected me spiritually, like genuinely. Like I haven't said those things, but like it did. It took just the people that I all of a sudden was surrounded by, and the conversations that they were having, and the requests that people that I guess they forgot that I was signed to like the Christian side of the label, and the things that they were asking me to do, and the things that I had to like address that I never would have thought like that I would have to. Those a lot of it took a toll on me mentally. I was asking questions to God that I don't think I would have ever asked. Like, is this okay, God? Like, is what just there was a lot. And then the pandemic hit, and I cried a lot. I had a lot of
A question about the pandemic as well coming up, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so it was like the plane was about to take off, right? We were in People magazine. I'm like about to perform for Billboard. That got shut down. I'm about to open for Sean Paul and all these things. And then God was like, yeah, land the plane. And I can only assume that it's because the plane was going to crash. Because during the pandemic, it did, right? But because the world stopped, I lost a lot of friends that I didn't know were, that it, whatever. A lot of people that I was surrounded by, God kind of removed. But I think that that's because there was so much time so that we could actually see that there was a bomb brewing. And if we didn't disconnect, then it would have exploded. And I even wrote through it. My last EP was me writing through it. There's songs I can hear. Like when I listen back now, I'm like, man, girl, you were angry. Like there's some songs that I'm like, sheesh. But God has used so much of it to, I think, get me to this point now where I have such a intentionality. I know what I want to say. I know who I want to be. I know like the music, we can go mainstream. You want to take me there? But believe me, I'm not letting go of who I came with. Like there's no question, there's no idea, there's no ambiguity. I want to be who God called me to be. And I want to reach the world, but I don't want to do it at the detriment to myself. Because then for what? Everybody knows my name, but they don't meet him. Boring. So
there's enough people doing that, honestly. And actually just seeing your boldness, like one word that came to me a lot when I was looking into your story and just seeing you on social, was you have like a conviction and a real boldness to share Christ. And I thought that was so inspiring and encouraging, especially like you said, with all this stuff that you'd been offered and opportunities that were coming to you and stuff like that. So I just commend you. Just keep doing what you're doing. Yeah, so the other part of that was just to discuss what it's like being a Christian in the mainstream world. So how do you cope with that, and especially being on a platform as well?
Sure, I'm still learning. What's really cool is once I kind of got thrown into that water, I started to meet a lot of believers. I had to look for a little while and I had to swim around, but I started to meet them, and I've just, as of late, that has kind of become my circle. which is different, right? Because you go from like the super believers and everybody's like, to like no believers, to then believers that know how to navigate good business and navigate industry, but also maintain their morals and their faith. And I needed those types of mentors. I needed people that could show me what it looked like to do it successfully. And although they don't have my platform, they're like producers, maybe they're like investors, or they're just financial gurus or whatever it is. They've been able to kind of give me that advice and just even remind me like, Angie, you don't have to be everywhere. And no is fine too. It could sound like the most beautiful opportunity in the world and you can still say no. And that's been huge because I didn't even know. Like I just thought, you got to do it. You just do it. You know, I come from like the hustler mentality, like go, 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 go. And they're like, nah, not everything's a go, go, go. Like, I'm like, wow, okay. So it's been interesting. I'm still learning, and I'll probably be learning forever. But
yeah, I feel like no one's ever done learning, and also just the power of a boundary. Listen, being able to say no, it's really scary at first, but it's actually very empowering, I think. And then I think then you have the capacity and space to be able to say yes to the right things, and you can give more of yourself to that thing, you know?
Say that. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Do you have advice for people on how we can do both, how we can be both in the world and also not of it? And just do you have any advice for people who might be feeling like they're withholding something that God's put in them?
Sure. So I would definitely say, again, I'm still learning. But one thing that I've learned for sure is that God is attractive. Like he's actually really beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are turned off to who God is because of the way we carry him. Like we come in with like all these like scriptures or all this like judgmental ideations and all these just things. And God's just like, why don't you just breathe? Be who I am, like show the character of God. But to do that, I think that we've got to learn who we are. And it's like, man, like God doesn't want me to be a robot, but I'm made in his image and likeness. So I look at us like almost like stained glass windows. And it's like, well, God, what color am I, basically? Like, what are you shining through me? How do I embody that? Not like I may look up to somebody that's red, but if I'm blue, help me to be who you've called me to be, because that's the light, that's the hue that's meant for the people that you're putting in front of me. And I think when we start to grow confident in that, then we just walk into every room and we just kind of smile. And if you're nervous, like for me, when I'm nervous, I'm nervous. Like it is like I'm not gonna walk in and be like, no, I used to do that. Like, oh, I'm good. And I'm like shaking. And now it's like, okay, I'm a little nervous. Like we're gonna talk through this. But that's who God called me to be. So my best advice is kind of finding the way that God has chosen to shine his light through you. What's unique about your character? What's unique about your personality? What's quirky about your person? What's just you? And let God shine through that. Because the people you're meeting, he has an assignment for every single person we've met. And they're not there by coincidence. So if you're you, they're going to fall in love with the God that's in you because you are you. I don't know if that makes sense. I was like everywhere, but
no, I love that. And I love the analogy. I can just see the rapper in you coming out with the metaphor.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I want to talk more about your backstory and your testimony. I know you touched on it a little bit earlier. Yeah, can you just tell us about the dark places that God has pulled you from, and also tell me how you reconnected with God? Yeah, I think it will really encourage some people.
Yeah. So for one, I would say the dark places that God continues to pull me from. It's like my favorite thing about God, but my least favorite thing about me. So my favorite thing about God is that he's so like, he's right there. He's like, oh, okay, come on. Like, where you going? I don't know. He's like, right here, sis. I guess I have spiritual ADD, and God is like, did you forget how much that hurts? And I'm like, oh my God. So God is just always about, getting me back in order, and he pursues. I've struggled with drug abuse. Like, it's just fun. And now I've realized that it was fun because it was an escape that was destroying my life. And God has taught me so much about even just spiritual, like the spiritual realms, like the fact that these things they sound crazy, and so I don't talk about them often, but they are real. Like when you start to dabble with drugs and stuff, you start to see things that other people aren't seeing. You feel things that other people aren't feeling. You have thoughts that other people aren't having. And, you know, our tendency is to say those things aren't real, just like when people struggle with like mental illness. When the truth is that there's a spiritual battle going on, and there's something that God desires to heal. And so it surfaces. And so one thing for sure is that my battles with like drugs and all that stuff has given me such a love and affinity for people that struggle with mental illness. Because it's like, man, I may have taken something to feel like that, but I get it. And I want to love you through it, because it's got to be worse. Like to not have to take anything and to be so confused and so burdened and so tormented. And also just the comeback from that, like the depression, the anxiety, like you start to live in this fake world when you've got to land back in reality. It's torture. And I feel like you're flying through a bunch of like spiritual attacks, depression, anxiety. I think I consider all those things spiritual attacks. And it's like you kind of signed up for it. And that's the struggle. Similar with alcohol, just struggles, like genuine things that God has just had to like say, Angie, come on, like, and he teaches me and he loves me and he brings me back to repentance, and then he teaches me and he loves me, he speaks to me, and that again, that's just my favorite thing about God, my least favorite thing about me. He's just so willing to teach, and for every time that I trip, he's like, oh, okay, look, you didn't fall, you didn't hit your face this time, come on. And it's like, okay, God, like, and it just becomes, when he says he's growing us from glory to glory, but also growing in grace, it's like, man, he's so real. We're not going to just be perfect from here to tomorrow, but we are going to be perfecting. We are going to see improvement. We are going to see growth. Our desires start to really change. So I hope that answered it, but it's just this consistent long journey, and God is just making me more like him. And I'm learning to just be open about the process versus, hey, this is done and this is what it is. It's more like, well, it was finished on the cross, but it's still finishing in my life. And I'm believing that God's going to finish the good work that he started, but not through our fake, like, vague journey. It's like God needs us to show the truth.
Yeah, I feel like that's very much something that happens a lot with our generation. Just everything's about show, everything's about like live your best life at all times. And it's like, yeah, live your best life, but you don't need to do all these other things that they actually create more noise, and they cloud your mind, I feel like.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think that will definitely encourage some people. And yeah, so now obviously this show is about Latin American culture and music, and it's just a celebration of that. And I believe you're of Puerto Rican heritage, is that correct? Yeah. So what does that mean to you, just being Puerto Rican, and what are your favorite things about your culture? How has it influenced your life, and also, again, your music?
Yeah. So one thing that has kind of impacted me lately is, not lately, one thing that I've grasped lately, my father always told me, Angie, you got to know who you are. And he meant, I in all senses, but he also meant like my culture. He's like, your language is one of the biggest in the world. Like, it's like one of the biggest languages in the entire world. Dominican Republic, Ecuador, like Puerto Rico, like all these countries speak one language. And he's like, if you learn who you are, you can reach so many more people. You can speak English, but if you learn to speak the language that reaches them, you can double your impact. Second, the sounds, the colors, like being Latina is so loud, so vibrant, so fun, so direct. Like our culture is very much like, mira, da, 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 and they're gonna just tell you off the bat, and like that's it. You gotta live it out. I love the textures of being a Latina. I love the things that it adds. I love being from New York, but I think I'm genuinely more in love with my Latin culture. It's also softened me. I think the Bronx gave me like this very like you know, this energy and aura.
Exactly how London is.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So it's given me that, but then going to Puerto Rico kind of taught me to slow up and to enjoy the breeze and to enjoy the waves and the palm trees, like we mentioned. And I'm grateful for that. I value that. because I think those are the things that have kind of saved me from this battle against anxiety.
Yeah.
Just learning to, it's all good.
Yeah. Not everything's go, go, go all the time. That's something even I'm learning constantly. It's always like, there's always this desire to do more and to be more and to, I don't know, to get ahead. And it's just like, just relax. Just be who you are and do what God's called you to.
That's it.
Be who
We make
God
it so complicated.
We really overcomplicate everything, don't we? Yeah, so something that I really wanted to talk to you about as well was the Unstoppable Foundation, because yeah, I just think it's like such a big part of your story and your journey. And yeah, could you just tell everyone more about how it was established, and then also the work that you've done in Puerto Rico, but then also in New York as well?
Sure. So the Unstoppable Foundation really came out of, I guess, action. So action that produced something sustainable. So when I first did it, I had just come back from like a hope tour, like a hip hop hope tour with Kingdom Music Ministries. I don't know if you know. Okay, so Brian Trejo, Monica Hill, Antoine Hill, we did this. Like, it was my first ever tour. I was driving a church van, and we stopped at these like at like the hoods. Basically, it was like Fifth Ward and all these other places that were kind of more impoverished. And we got to do like these free concerts, and we were talking about hope and all this stuff. And then these hurricanes hit, and I was just like, man, like, I can't just talk about how good God is and how faithful God is. Like, we've got to do something. So I had all this merch, and I was like, I just went online. I didn't have money, but I had merch. And I was like, hey, if you guys want to help us, everything that you buy will go towards supporting, helping these people that are victims of the hurricane, whatever. So we end up selling out merch. I send money to Texas. It happens in Florida. I get online. I do it again. We send money. We send money to Florida, and then it happens in Puerto Rico. And I was just like, oh my God, like, it's not the same. Like, their infrastructure is not the same. The way their houses are built is not the same. Their electricity is clearly not the same. Just all these things. And I'm like, man, I can't just send like a couple $100. Like, it's gonna do nothing. So I call up all these pastor friends and all these like people that love the community in the Bronx, and I'm like, hey, I want to do a concert, and we'll raise money, and then I'll go out to Puerto Rico with the team, and we'll just see what we can do. So that ends up becoming this whole thing. Like, the entire Bronx basically gets involved. We get, well, not the entire Bronx, but to me, it felt like it.
Everyone.
Yeah, it was everybody. But no, like, so many people got together. We ended up selling out a concert, 500 people. And then people that were from out of state that support the ministry bought tickets. So then we did double evangelism. We went out to the community. We were like, yo, you got free tickets and you're VIP. So I went to all the projects in the Bronx that were close by where the venue was. And I was like, you guys get front row seats. You're VIP to our concert. And they're like, how much? And we're like, no, free. People got saved that night. 500 people came out, and we were able to make $5,000. Which, it's a small change compared to like an island. So I'm still like, man, God, what are we going to do? So I'm just still like, whatever, I'm going. We booked the tickets, get to Puerto Rico, and all these people had called me. We're going to help you, we're going to help you, we're going to help you. And they kind of like disappeared. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm in Puerto Rico. Like, all these people are gone. So I get to the property that I was supposed to be at, that I was going to partner with, that I still partner with all these years later. And my phone starts ringing. And it's FEMA, it's the Ricky Martin Foundation, it's all these people, and they're like, we have food for you, we have pallets, we have water, we have this. I'm like, what? I look at the pastor, who's still my partner in Puerto Rico to this day, and he whistles, and he's like, rompe, he's like, break the wall. So he calls all his people, and he's like, we're getting a blessing, break the wall. So they break the front of their church entrance to be able to fit all the pallets. Literally took hammers that day, started breaking the wall down, because they were like, no, we got to make room for God's blessing.
Why does this sound like a Bible story?
Bruh, in that moment, I knew. I was like, this guy is like, he's it. That's it. Like, he's my guy.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, God, but why'd you make me wait? Like, why did I have to wait to get here? Why did I have to deal with all that fear? And he was like, Angie, the word says miracles, signs, and wonders follow. You had to get there. And I was like, oh my God. So from that point on, it was like, just do it. Do what God is putting in your heart to do. And when you get there, everything you need will be supplied. And from then on, that's what we did. We built the Unstoppable Foundation, got the paperwork done, like started the work that week. We built up 9 distribution centers that were still giving out food. Right now, there's 3, I believe, open, 2 or 3 that are still open, giving Pampers, food, water to the community right now. Partnered with churches, people can go receive prayer, food, all that stuff. Then we went to New York, and unfortunately the pandemic shut us down. But we opened up an after-school program, and God supplied again. We had all these students, we had kids that they were like, they'll never work, they're horrible, they're so misbehaved, they do this, they do that. That ended up being on honor roll with us. They're failing, they're gonna get left back. They ended up on honor roll. And we had moments, I'm not gonna front like everything was perfect. Like we had moments where kids were throwing desks across the room, and like I was traveling for tour, and I'd get these calls, and I just had to get on the phone. And I remember one baby, he wasn't a baby. I was like, what do we do? What do we do? Like, what do we do when we feel like this? And he was like, we breathe, we breathe. But they just started to learn. They were praying together. Now they're in church. This one kid that just had nothing, wanted nothing to do. He was too cool for like anything Christian. He was just like, I'm from the streets, like all this stuff. Now he's in church, like consistently. He's loving God. He's bringing his parents in. Yeah, so God just has done a ton. I'm excited for whatever he's gonna do next. We have plans with the music to support new things. So yeah.
That's incredible. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I just feel like the work that you're doing is really amazing. I'm like, where is Angie Rose gonna be like 10 years from now? Just honestly, doing God's work, girl. Doing God's work. Yeah. So now I just wanted to talk to you just about your faith. Just about who some of your favorite gospel artists are, your favorite preachers, favorite worship songs, just that kind of stuff, so people can kind of get to know you a bit better.
Sure. I love Tasha Cobbs.
We love Tasha Cobbs.
Yeah, right? I love a ton. I mentioned a few of the Spanish artists that I really enjoy. I love Barack. Danny Goki is fun. Worship. I love Maverick City. Lately, I've just been kind of like, whoa, like blown away. And then as far as like hip hop, I love No Big Deal. I just think he's like an amazing rapper. This Spanish artist named Nico Ame, I think is amazing. My favorite preachers, I love Sarah Jakes.
That's my sis. She doesn't know that she's my sis, but she's my sis.
Right, exactly. Absolutely. Agreed. I love her. I love Priscilla Schreier. I never say her name right. Schreier.
I know who you mean. She like she's just on I'm pretty sure she was just on a podcast with Bianca Olthoff the other day.
Okay.
Yeah.
TD Jakes, for sure. That voice kind of raised me. Stephen Furtick. There's a ton. I'm just kind of, I tapped into whatever's available. What was the other questions?
Yeah, just your favorite gospel artists.
Okay.
Yeah, and just generally gospel music. Obviously, we're a gospel station, so.
Ty Tribbett still. I forgot about that. Ty Tribbett.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So now I want to talk about the pandemic. So how has it changed your life in terms of like, I know you've mentioned that like you just said earlier, that everything you were forced to pause and like the whole world came to a standstill, and you had all this amazing stuff going on like with people and with Shaw Paul and all of that, and you kind of, I think you said in an Instagram live that you everything got shut down, everything paused in your life, and it's almost like things shifted spiritually so that God could shape you, but also so that you could draw closer to him. So could you just tell me more about that experience? And
that's absolutely it. Just, I said today, we use that scripture, no weapon formed against us shall prosper. And something that God kind of highlighted to me yesterday is like, well, the weapon won't prosper because it won't break you. But that doesn't mean that it won't break off of you the things that you don't need to have. And I think that's exactly what the pandemic did. It was like these things that I didn't know that I was carrying that I thought, or some things that I thought were good things. And God was just like, no, like you don't need that. Yeah, this weapon is not going to break you, but it's going to break off of you everything that you don't need. The ego, anger. I didn't even realize the amount of anger that was like sitting, and then also the amount of tolerance for things that I had no need to tolerate. Like, it's not beneficial for me, but I feel the need to be so nice and so kind, to stick around to things that are not beneficial. And God is just, again, like you said, boundaries. Like people that don't respect your boundaries shouldn't have access to you.
Yes. More
It should
people
be a
need to
beautiful.
learn that, honestly.
It's crazy. It saves us so much trouble, because you get to realize the value of people that can say, that's cool, I like that. When you can say, I need me time, and it's not taken personally, that's like a play. So yeah, God has taught me a ton. He's also showed me just some of my weaknesses. Like, Angie, you're not what you think you are. You know, like, he did an inventory of my soul and is still doing. And I think he's taught me to let him in always, to keep my mind on him. And even when he's telling me things that I don't necessarily want to hear, remember that it's for my good, and to just lean in with him, to work in partnership with him. Because this world's gonna have afflictions. It's normal. Now I've like just realized that some days I'm gonna wake up and it's gonna feel heavy. Like, the weight of the world's gonna feel like it's on my shoulders. And God is just reminding me, lift it and give it to me. And that's it. And every time I learn to do that, it's like, So I think he's kind of given me a new purpose. Like, I told one of my friends, Byron Juwan, I never know how to say his name right. But I was like, he was like, well, what do you want to do now? And I was like, well, I just want to make the music that I feel would have healed me and would heal me. And that's it. And he was like, wow. But I think that's the new like purpose. Like, God is like, if you went through the struggle, then let's let the healing speak.
Wow. That's incredible. I can't wait to hear this music when it comes out. So I want to talk about social media and coffee with Angie Rose. Yeah, I just found it on my timeline one day. That's kind of how I stumbled upon your sound and everything. Yeah, so how did that idea come to you? And yeah, what does it mean to you to have this evolving community that you call La Familia? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, just what does it mean to you to be able to do that and to be able to use social media for good? Because I feel like so often it's used, you know, we look at social media and we feel bad. So, you know, you can curate your timeline to make it more positive. So, yeah, how was
I learn about that? But so truthfully, this idea has been like in me for like 3-4 years. But I low-key just didn't have the guts. Like, I was just like, I don't know if I'm gonna be talking all the time or And lately, God is just like just stop. Like, you've been thinking about this forever. You've been wanting to talk to people forever. It doesn't, like, throw away everything else and just connect. And so I just literally took the leap. Like, it was like 2-3 weeks that it was just popping up in my head again and again and again and again. And I was just like, I'm gonna just do it. And I just did it. Like, I just hopped on, I did the first live, and I felt so much freedom. I felt so liberated. I felt like I was floating. I was just like, oh my God, like, I love this. And yeah, for me, it's just even kind of seeing and hearing, like, I've gotten messages from people. They're just like, I don't know who you are, but I'm on my knees praying and meeting God. And I'm just like, whoa, like, hold on. Like, what? Okay, got it. Like, I'm down. And now it just kind of, it's evolving in and of itself. Like, there's a radio station that wants to partner now, and they want to broadcast it live on their station, and just all these things. And I'm like, man, God, I'm going to just be grateful. I can regret all the years that I spent not doing it, or I could just say, God, I'm just grateful that I've finally done it. And I'm experiencing so much, I think, like you're saying, community. Like, La Familia has been this idea, and in my heart, it's like, oh, I love connecting with people, but this is the first time that I'm actually genuinely feeling like I'm connecting. Like, it's like, oh, wow, like, I'm saying things that I probably would never say in a regular caption or in a short video that's curated, because a live is so freestyle. Like, it's just, and sometimes I'm like, God, what are you doing? Stop, don't say it. And then the other day I cried on live, and I was like, oh my God. And then after, I'm like, man, God, like, you used that one was, I got like 3 messages from one woman who runs a drug and rehab home. And she's like, Angie, like, God used you so tremendously, and I'm so motivated. I was just like, okay, like, our weakness is his strength. It's true.
Wow.
And yeah, I'm enjoying the journey. I think it's like a live therapy session or something.
No, I love that. Yeah, I just think I love seeing people who are building platforms, who have influence, who are just, you know, giving glory to God. And I just feel like the more we submit to his plan, the more he'll do things that are beyond our comprehension.
Amen.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm just excited for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so as I said before, your boldness is something that struck me. And just, yeah, like how you're kind of all in for Christ. You're just like, I'm all in now. I really feel that from you. So what advice would you give to people who are maybe withholding, and they know that they've got something in them and God's planted a seed, but they're just worried about maybe what people will think or what people will say? Yeah, what advice would you give to people who want to launch?
Just say yes. Just say yes to what God is putting in your heart. But make sure that it's led with love, because sometimes people, you know, there's so many different directions, and the enemy can take a good thing and remove the God thing from it. So it's very important to kind of just get to know who we are. And I think that self-inventory too, like for me, like people are always like, oh, this thing is going to take off for you. And I try my best to like throw it out. Like, it's like, man, I just don't want anything that's going to feed my ego, because it's going to change the heart of what this is. And so, you know, I think social media does a good job of kind of feeding our ego. So it's like, yo, if you're going to do this, just do it, and just do it. Like, just focus on this, like celebrate what God does and be grateful, but like focus on the mission and make sure that's the point. Like, because for me, that's been huge. That's been really helpful. Even in just those mornings, like I said, that I feel like the weight of the world's on my shoulders. It's just like, yo, what's the mission? What's the mission? And then I get this like perk of going through a struggle and going, God, what are you about to do? Like, what are you teaching me? And what are we going to talk about next? Because if I'm going through it, then I'm going to get through it and I'm going to have something to say. So yeah, just holding on to who God says you are. It's kind of back to that stained glass thing. Like, what is the way that God has chosen for you to shine? And just do it. Just do that. Let everything else fall where it may.
I love that. So now this next bit is funny because I found an interview that you did 5 years ago. And I think it was with this place called the Gal Mob, like a New York based online magazine or something like that.
Oh shoot, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I'm just interested to see what you have to say, because one of the questions I asked you was, if in 5 years you blow up and are doing great, and this interview was 5 years ago actually.
Wow.
It's funny that I stumbled across it. Yeah, so if in 5 years you blow up and are doing great things for yourself in music, would you rather continue to be independent or sign to a big label? To which you said, you see, that's hard to gauge. My goal is to reach the biggest amount of people in the world. It isn't to make the most money. Obviously, money is a necessity, so I'm not going to front. But if I'm doing well and a label comes along that could take me to the next level without robbing me, then that would be something I'd consider. So obviously now we know where you are. So upon reflection of hearing that, have you achieved what you wanted to? And what would you like to do next with your music, with the Unstoppable Foundation, for the kingdom of God?
Yeah. Have I achieved what I wanted to? I would say no, probably not. But it's just because at that point, I don't think that I knew fully where I was going. I'm grateful for all the things that, because the Unstoppable Foundation wasn't even born yet at the time of this interview. So I'm grateful that those things happened. And now, just again, one thing too that God really kind of hit me with in the pandemic was like, you've never given your gift your attention. I've always thought my gift was to do like use your gift and then go do this after school program and try to run an after school program while you're touring and try to do that. And while those were good things and while God did his thing with it, he's now like, Angie, like, you're not 7 people, you're 1. And I've given you this gift and I've given you this platform. Lean in, please. Like, give your gift its time. And so now I think hearing that, I'm like, man, I wonder now what God is going to do in 5 years. Because at that point, I was still not an artist. I still didn't understand that was what this was.
Okay.
And now I do. So let's see what happens in 5 years now.
Yeah, and I always like to ask people, what would you, like, if you could collaborate with anyone, if you could do anything and you just want to put it out there, this platform to do just that. So is there anything that you would like to put on the record that you would like to achieve?
I would love to do a record with Kanye. I think that'd be amazing. I still want to work with Lecrae and Andy Mineo. They've been in my head forever. Gavi is up there for me too.
He's an amazing producer.
Amazing. And artist. Just his music is like, I'm like, dang, you're too good. You're just too good. Yeah. Yeah, and then there's just, I feel like I've gotten my dream producer. So I'm just waiting to see what we create and how it affects the world, and just continue kind of growing and evolving as an artist, learning more, saying more. My newest thing is like, how do I say more with saying less? So we'll see.
That's interesting. It's almost like a paradox, because what you do is talk.
Yeah.
You use words.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that though.
It's like my little challenge. How do I create like these profound statements in music that with like three to 5 words or less? Like it's just like, say that thing, say it, and then get out of there. Like, so just challenging my mind and letting God kind of speak. And I'm having fun with this now. It's not my second thing. It's my thing.
Yeah, it's your main thing.
Yeah,
you're all in. I can see that. So my last question for you is, if you could speak directly to the person who's listening to this or watching this, and part of your stories resonated with them, or they feel pressed by something you said, what advice would you give to them?
Trust God through it all, and get to know what that means, not as a cliche. Like, get to know what it means to really trust God for you, for your life, and believe Him about you. Like, believe that He's saying good things, believe that He desires your good, and believe that He's willing to walk with you through wherever you gotta go. Like, the detours are part of the story. He's down for it. He'll go with you, but He has a goal, and lean in with Him, partner with God towards your greatest good. Yeah.
Cool. And where can everyone find you on social media?
Angie Rose Music with a K. So yeah, Angie Rose, MUSIK. And same thing, website, Twitter, Facebook, Spotify, YouTube is just Angie Rose. Save the music. Yeah.
I've seen your TikToks where you're like, this is how you can save the music.
Right. I'm like, come on.
I love that as well. Yeah, thank you so much for your time. This has been really...
thank you.
Premier Gospel.